Panago Pizza presents SDP, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
I think perhaps the biggest news of the last 48 hours is the state of Jesse's face, which is shaved.
I mentioned it to Steve before you joined the chat, but yeah, I shaved my face.
I haven't seen Jesse this shaved since probably 2015.
It's been a few years since I cut it this low.
I told Jesse he looks like a new character on Hey Arnold.
Yeah, because I'm also wearing a shirt that like a 5-year-old would wear all day.
Yeah,
it's a very Nickelodeon shirt.
It is fun while at home, you know.
Hey, I'm the new kid at whatever Hey Arnold school was called. I can't remember. And like you get bullied, but like Arnold and Gerald like try to bring you in.
Yeah, and then I become friends with people, and then people learn lessons.
Yeah,
It's about these people life lessons.
And like Stinky tries to offer you friendship, but you're like, I don't know.
You know that girl that always bullied Arnold?
Helga Pataki.
Did she end up like telling him that she loved him?
I can't remember.
Don't they, in the end, isn't it a happy ending with them in the movie? Because it ends with the movie, right? Aren't they?
That's too perfect if it does.
Yeah, I think they like, she admits like, hey, I'm in love with you, and then she's all nice. I think that's
Do
how
I
the
get
movie
going on
ends.
Game of Thrones, or do I just watch that? I think I'm just going to watch that.
I might need to watch Hey Arnold, man. I might need to get back into
It's a
that.
great show.
Yeah.
Great show.
Holy, there's a lot there.
Is it streaming
soundtrack.
on Disney Plus? Is it Disney?
Is it a Disney show?
I don't
How
know.
Can I watch?
Oh.
How?
No, it's
can I
Nickelodeon, right?
Watch Hey Arnold.
This is very important information, by the way.
Hulu.
We're between podcasts.
Hulu has it in the States. Amazon, no, that's volume 1. You can buy it. Hey Arnold. Let's see if Crave has it. Hey Arnold.
Jesse, what were you saying about like how it's a sad show?
Yeah, so I think it was a BuzzFeed article where they wrote about how Hey Arnold's actually a really sad show because the kids are the poor kids and they're growing up in a really like dilapidated poor neighborhood in an inner city. And that how like all the races coming together is as a result of them just living in this close kind of project area. And like they're playing baseball with sticks and that sort of stuff. So
Wow.
yeah.
But
I would have never thought of that.
as a kid, I was just like, I wish I was friends with Hey Arnold. Like,
Yeah.
they get to go outside and play all the time, and like they have so much freedom.
Yeah, and there's like things to explore and it's cool.
Yeah. I want to play stick baseball.
I can't find it. Apparently it's on Hulu in the States, but I don't think no Canadian streaming service has yet bought the rights for Hey Arnold.
We don't get any damn thing. Did you see JD Bunkus losing his mind that we get The Last Dance like a day?
I was going to bring that
after
up.
the
I think
States?
JD Bunkus has a point.
He does.
How
What
come
is
we
the-
have to watch Michael Jordan's documentary a day later on the
Yeah,
same
but
streaming
it's not a day later. It becomes on Netflix on Monday at midnight. It's literally it airs
Is it later at all?
No, it airs at 6 p.m. on ESPN. Okay. So
Tonight.
it's probably an hour show. So at 7 is the airing and it's over. And then 4 hours later, his streaming services. It's like any other show that his streaming service is the night of its airing.
Oh, that's poopy. Why are you letting it out?
That's
at
way
mid-
different.
Who has time to watch stuff at midnight except everybody who's at home? Like, I don't have time to watch this crap at midnight. Come
No,
on.
it's the
Why,
same
like,
way-
put it at a normal hour so normal ass people who buy these services can actually watch them. Like, I mean, listen, shout out to all you college kids that can stay up till midnight, man. It doesn't last. Doesn't
Also,
last.
let's visit the can versus should.
Right.
I know a lot of us are off right now, but we shouldn't be up till 3 a.m. on account of you'll die.
Well,
When did you guys want them to deliver the show?
right after it's done on ESPN. I get
I
ESPN
don't
gets
care.
the exclusive
Yeah.
right away.
Okay, what about they have to do a West Coast airing as well. So it's 9 p.m. on the
Don't
West
do it on the
Coast.
West Coast. Just run it at one time.
Screw them.
Run it at one time.
You know how
I agree,
TV
Adam.
rights work.
I hear what you're saying.
That's not how that works.
Live sports. The game happens when it happens. This is Michael flippin' Jordan. This is live sports, baby. And why are we pretending the internet doesn't exist and as though people aren't going to blow this for other people online, East Coast to West Coast? Why don't you just run it so people can watch it? It's 7 o'clock Eastern and it's 4 o'clock Pacific.
I'm of two minds. Jesse is right that it's not a big deal. Adam is right that make it as easy as possible or people will just steal it.
Yeah,
Like,
which is
I
what
don't
they're going to do.
These companies don't think that way. They're like, well, we're not going to cater to those people because you're just not supposed to steal. No, society at large will steal it.
Yes.
It's not a car, it's content. Like they don't look at it the same.
No.
Like we're, credit photographers and all that. But if it's a Michael Jordan documentary, make it as easy as possible for me to get, or people are just going to steal it.
Yeah, man, I don't even mind buying in to watch it. To watch the live show. I would have watched it tonight. Like, I'm excited to see
don't know if it's on Sportsnet or TSN.
It's not.
It's not.
Neither of them bought the rights to it. So,
well, Netflix
could afford it. Like, it might have been, who knows? It was probably.
it might have been outrageously expensive. And who's buying that during a pandemic?
I'm sure Sportsnet was probably like, how much?
Yeah.
I assume Netflix outbid them for the exclusive rights then.
Probably.
With all the money they made from Tiger King.
There you go.
There you go.
It's true. I wonder if Tiger King actually boosted Netflix's subscriptions. Like, at what point does everybody just universally have it, and it's sort of like your default? You know what I mean? Like, everybody just has Netflix because you have to have Netflix, but then you can decide whether you want Disney Plus or Hulu or Crave or whatever the other ones are. Netflix seems to be. It's like, no, everybody's got to have Netflix.
Yeah, whoever is going to have Netflix already has it by now.
Right?
There's no one adding on Netflix. Yeah.
Do you know anybody under the age of 45 who doesn't have Netflix? Do you know someone?
This is the thing, though. People over 45 are now like, I think they were always aware. They were just putting it off, and now they're like, all right, how do I do this?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to, like, how many weeks away are we from Gordon Ramsay having a cooking show on Twitch? Like, it can't be far.
No.
It's going to happen.
One of the interesting things,
Reed Drummond
is the series that Netflix has been able to sell back to like normal TV. So like FX might buy Ozark, or like
Really?
Spike if it still exists, or I don't know. Does Spike TV still exist?
It's called Paramount Network.
Okay.
Yeah, they still show trampoline basketball and roller derby.
Don't. It's mostly like Tattoo Nightmares and Bar Rescue, I think. I think that's what they do.
Is
Which
it?
I freaking love Bar Rescue, by the way.
Sportsnet, like, as long as we're showing old sports, they need to buy all the old trampoline basketball league games. That ruled.
What was
you guys
that
never
called?
watched that? Slam Ball.
Slam Ball, yeah, on Spike.
It was
I
the
watched that.
best.
I watched it. I didn't think it was that cool, man. I thought it was
Oh,
pretty cool.
you're poo.
Oh, wow. 45 slam dunks in a row. Like,
I like
it
slam
sort of
ball.
gets a little tired after a while.
That's the All-Star game.
Well,
They're
the All-Star game
trying,
kind of
and
sucks,
there's
man.
defense, and guys like get hurt.
No, I
There's so
really
many
like
lengths.
Slam Ball. It used to come on at like midnight, and I used to watch Spike because Spike had TNA wrestling.
Oh,
And so they had
Right.
like the first rights to TNA wrestling, and then Slam Ball or whatever would come on after that. Slam Ball is pretty good. I don't know why you're hating on it, Adam.
it's so good. It hasn't been
No.
around for 15 years.
Wow.
I'm shocked, guys. How could they just hold back this great product?
Neither
But
of
it
the
did so
Whalers.
well.
People still buy the jerseys.
Dude, it didn't even make the Ocho. It was on freaking Spike. Come on.
Okay, what about this one? Pros versus Joes.
That's another Spike, right?
Yeah, that was another
think-
Spike show.
Wasn't Claude Lemieux on that from the NHL? Like, he was
They have
he was
legit
pro?
guys.
Yeah.
What was he going up against actual rats? Like, what was he doing?
No, he was going, like, basically the idea was that, like, you are a Joe, like the average Joe, and you wanted to see if you could, hang with these guys and play like them.
Oh, I was
And-
thinking of that show where they made like Ben Johnson raise a giraffe. What was that?
No. Wasn't that like Wild World of Sports?
I don't know.
Yo, isn't that like really, really problematic? Like, trying to get a giraffe to run for human.
Oh,
It was, like,
It
didn't
wasn't
actually
recent.
race
It
it.
was back when people gave less of a shit, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, list of hockey players who were on Pros versus Joes.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah, I'm on their Wikipedia page.
I
Steve.
know.
Oh my
I feel
God.
like Claude Lemieux was on it.
Claude
That's
Lemieux is one of them.
Okay. I don't know the rest.
Let's see, ice hockey. Claude Lemieux. I'm just Grant Fuhr.
Grant Fuhr.
He was on an episode. Marty McSorley.
Wow.
So there's a
Okay.
You
name.
know some pretty big names.
Paul
Yeah.
Coffey.
Jesus.
Wow.
There you go. I
Yeah.
can't find any more hockey competitions. There you go.
Paul Coffey's had a
Legit
crazy
names.
career since he left the NHL. First, it was Pros versus Joes, and now he's part of the Edmonton management group. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
He had a
So
crazy. He's just had a crazy life for
Oh,
like
he
a
has.
Hall of Fame player, like considered one of the best defensemen, but sort of controversial figure.
Why is he controversial?
He played for like 19 teams. He's controversial just because a lot of guys are like, well, he put up so many points because he didn't play any bloody defense.
Oh,
Which, I don't know, fair. But he put up a lot, so.
Yeah.
he was one of the best skaters ever. He was a
Yeah,
brilliant
like,
skater.
Why would
How
anybody
many
do
cups
that?
did he win? Well, they did all right.
What kind of argument is that, by the way?
Oh, I don't know. I
he
wasn't
just put up
old
some-
enough to know.
Does anyone hold that against Bobby Orr?
No,
What do you-
absolutely not.
Do you see any highlights of Bobby Orr going, wow, he shut him down on the wing there?
There must have been, yeah.
The
that's
shot
a
you
good
see
point.
of Bobby Orr is him rushing the puck down the ice, or that goal he scored to eliminate St. Louis to win the cup where he's like flying through the air. That's what you see of Bobby Orr. You don't see Bobby Orr doing, wow, that was a really great neutral zone shutdown from Bobby Orr.
Yeah. How about this? What was Bobby Orr doing in the crease? Like, how many?
Yeah.
If they had bird's eye view cameras back then,
Yeah.
how many times? Well, goal against Boston. If you look, Bobby Orr is behind the opposing net. That might have had something to do with the blown coverage there. That's very true. Okay, new podcast topic. Is Bobby Orr bad?
Not
Sorry,
bad,
that's
just
disrespectful.
overrated.
That's disrespectful. Was he bad? Yeah. Oh, was he overrated? There's one.
Yeah,
Very
because
good
he
guess.
didn't play enough defense. You know, he was too busy scoring goals or something.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
He
I
played
mean,
6
you
games
have
for
to ask the
Blackhawks.
question.
You
You
do.
have to ask the question.
You do. I mean, I wonder how a player like Bobby Orr would be viewed today, right? I mean, I don't think he'd be
Doesn't
allowed
hit
to
enough.
play that.
Doesn't hit enough.
What doesn't hit it? Well,
Never did
I
it
mean,
for me.
And Bobby Orr was so much better than the rest of the league that it's almost like if Bobby Orr played a full career, he would have retired in like 1990. People
Yeah,
forget he had or 1985 or 6. Like he started in the late 60s and he played like 8 seasons and he's still considered top 3 best player of all time.
I think it was like, yeah, and he won at least half a dozen Norris trophies. He's
Yes.
stupid.
Yeah. So I wonder with a guy like that, like he came in and stepped in was so much better than everybody else. I wonder what that could possibly look like in the NHL today, not because of just how positional it is, but also like Connor McDavid, I think is the best example we have of a player who is just that much better than everybody else, but it's always a forward. Like if you look at since the mid 70s, show me a defenseman that's really, I mean, Paul Coffey's a great example of a guy who could really skate and blow the brakes off. He was amazing. But the players that are that good at skating, that are that good at puck handling, that good at shooting, tend to be forwards.
Who was the last defenseman to win the Hart? I want to say it was Chris Pronger with the Blues.
Could have been Nick Lindstrom, maybe?
Did he ever win a Hart? I don't think
I don't
he
know.
did, which is wild, considering we're all like, best defenseman of the generation, hands down, Hall
Chris
of Famer.
Pronger, 1999, 2000.
That was the last Hart.
20 years ago was the last time a defenseman was considered the best player in the NHL.
Yeah.
Jose Theodore was considered the best player in the NHL more recently than a defenseman.
And
That's
before
crazy.
that, it was Bobby Orr in 71, 72.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Because
It's like
remember,
Haley's
Gretzky
Comet.
takes like a decade of Hart trophies, right?
Oh well,
So.
yeah. Okay, fair. Wow. But so yeah, Bobby Orr was bad. He was bad. Liability. Bobby Orr ability.
He might have been, I guess. And I think didn't he play most of his career with Brad Park too, who was also really, really, really good and kind of got outshone?
I don't know their history, boy. Why don't you
Anyway,
tell
sorry,
me?
yeah.
their-
Hey, we do have to talk about some hockey stuff. Actually, surprisingly, a very surprising amount of hockey happened. We also will talk about the Quarantine Cup today, which was a doozy
Mhm.
on Friday
Pretty
night.
good.
Yeah,
A lot
but
of stuff happened there.
the things and stuff. The NHL players have decided to defer their decision on their last paycheck until May the 15th. So here's the thing. According to Renard Lavoie, the NHLPA members decided to defer their decision on their last paycheck. The question was, what percentage should go back to the owners via escrow? Players need more time to see if they have a chance to resume playing at one point.
I love
The amount-
escrow talk. It's my favorite.
Oh, the total amount was supposed to be sent April 15th to the players was around 120 million. So
Jeez.
yeah. So while the paychecks were not guaranteed at the time of the season's pause, players were told not long after that the decision to halt the season was made, and that they would be getting all 3 remaining paychecks. So, yeah, and the NBA almost there was rumors the NBA wasn't even going to issue their last paycheck, but they did. And I won't even pretend to fully understand what that means, but I would assume that the players are worried about having to pay a bunch of escrow. Like put money in escrow because it's supposed to be a 50-50 revenue share here, and it's not going to be because the owners are going to lose a pile of money.
Yeah, there's no revenue.
Yeah, there is no revenue.
Can't split anything.
This reminds me of the Dickie D story. They're trying to make $1.50 into $2. And there's the Dickie D story that I always tell at summer camp. I would always have like $1.50 or so in my pocket. The Dickie D ice cream man would be outside, and the chocolate baseball glove with a gumball in it was $2. And I would always look at the money in my hand and try my hardest to make it $2. And I would put the quarters with the nickels, and it wouldn't work. It would never work. And I just feel like, okay, what should we do with this escrow? Are we going to get more money now? But then the salary cap and this could affect it. You're boned. I don't know what the right decision here is, other than there's no money being made and you're kind of boned.
Right. Well, I wondered if they were issued their last paycheck and then had to pay a pile of escrow, would they then get that money back if the NHL resumes? But I also think the revenue is not going to be the same, right? Obviously. The revenue can't be the same.
But it sounds like they would get it back because they'd be making some money. Some money, At least it wouldn't be zero.
Because do you have to pay for television rights when you've got no television?
Sportsnet employee Steve Dangle can probably fill us in.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because
I don't know the answer.
Can't really make payment if you're not delivering a product, right?
It's a simple question, Doctor. No, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It's a great question. No one I've asked knows. So
that's interesting.
It's
really, really interesting.
I mean, maybe they do, and they know I have a podcast and a big mouth.
But it's still fair. It's an interesting one. Yeah. I don't know why people are asking, but they are. Wayne Gretzky believes that hockey will be returned sometime this summer.
Well, it sure is interesting that there was so much activity over the past week. Mm-hmm. And it, me and my big mouth last show, I was like, all the deals we're seeing are under $1 million.
Mm-hmm. And then we get Marco Scandella.
And all of a sudden I guess Pietrangelo's walking.
Yeah.
Like that's
we're going to get to that later, by the way. I'll get into that now.
I was going to say, what's the exact deal for Scandella? But
I'll get into that. Yeah, we got a whole conversation with Pietrangelo and Scandella and Ron and Vince Dunn too, by the way.
When did that happen?
Well, Vince Dunn's not done. That's the problem. So this is why we're waiting.
No, he's Vince. I got you.
I'm kidding. But really, so Gretzky says this. So I really believe somehow, some way, the leadership in this country and in Canada, I guess, so he's in the States, we're going to figure this out. And I really believe that we'll see hockey and some sort of other sports in June, July, and August, albeit in a different way, but I really see it coming to fruition. I think it's going to happen. He said, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm too optimistic. I think I'm not. I hope that's a good sign for everybody that we're moving on in life, in business, in sports. I really see in the next couple months something good happening. Now, people would say, well, what could Wayne Gretzky possibly know? I think Wayne Gretzky would know a lot more than you would think.
Yeah.
Gretzky's, even if he's not privy to those conversations directly, probably just has to make a phone call.
I mean, it's also Wayne Gretzky. Like, people probably just go, you're Wayne Gretzky. I feel like I should tell you things.
Maybe, yeah.
Just on, the street. Not that he's on the street having many conversations with people. I've heard encouraging news on the medical front, not just from Jim, although Jim would get last episode. That was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I really don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's weird. I am starting to get the impression, especially last night, I was doing a watch party. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point for that Carolina for that Carolina 8-6 game. And Rod Brindamore and Sheldon Keefe were both on, and they both sure talk about hockey like it's coming back relatively soon. And the season's going to finish and school year, and it's a weird little time. It's if you ignore the beaches opening and everyone screaming about that and randomly calling for liberation of anyway, there is actually like growing optimism, it seems.
It does seem that way.
I think
And
people are committed to completing the season, even if it's in the fall. It seems like everybody's committed to getting that done. So
I hated the idea at first, but now it's something like I really believe in.
Well,
it's special.
3 weeks ago when you're being barraged with, well, this is bad and it's getting worse, and then day after day after day, but you do start to see some encouraging signs, and it's that's the whole point of situations like this. They put you in pressure situations so that you can grow and find workarounds, and if they can find one that's safe and that's medically reasonable, I don't see why you don't do it. And it's nice to be able to talk about things like that. It's nice that from what we're hearing, that things are starting to get better in the countries and the regions that are worst affected by this. And that doesn't mean everybody, and that doesn't mean it's that much better, but any sort of hope at this point is great. And the idea that it's even on the table, because it would seem like it was off the table, that it's even on the table is great, and it's good enough for me. And I need something to look forward to and some hope and some happiness, because I don't know about you, and you might not be in Canada, but spring in Canada is quite gray. And then being stuck inside and it's gray and all those other
today
things.
Sucked.
Today kind of sucked, man.
Yeah,
today really sucked.
Last week.
I'm feeling it.
Sucked.
But I want people to understand that signs of encouragement are happening because of the things that are happening. It's
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Inside, and that just because there is an end date doesn't mean you can lift up any of these things that are in place right now.
No,
and that the end goal isn't. It looks closer than it is, but like August is still such a long way if there's all these restrictions, and they'll be lifted gradually, but still holding the course till around August or July is still a task that needs commitment by everybody.
Like the one thing I had heard is 2 weeks from now, they're hoping it'll be the peak at, in some points in some parts of Canada. And while that's good news, I'm sort of like, you know what peak means, right? That's like the height of it, and then it starts going down. Yeah. So we're still 2 weeks away from the prospect of it going down.
Yeah, and just as long as you keep in mind that those things are still coming, that we're still on the upswing and not coming down on the other end, getting close to things, then we'll get through it.
Yeah.
Manitoba had 0 cases today. That was a nice little story, but they were also, I want to say, like the least affected province or something. They were the last province to report a case.
The less people you have, the less you'll be affected, right? Because there's no community spread.
Well, and that's the thing. So I do want to move on past that, guys, because not that it's not scintillating and interesting, but it's depressing. And I do I don't want to think about 2 more weeks.
No, I agree.
I would like to move on to things more fun, such as a thing that you're going to be hearing a lot lately, not lately, in the future, in the very near future, is headline that starts with Taylor Hall's agent says.
Who happens to be Taylor Hall's agent?
It's weird. Darren flippin' Ferris. We're gonna Yeah. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but Darren Ferris does media availabilities.
Oh.
Does he?
Yeah. Now, weirdly, not that we've really tried, but I don't know if he would do this show.
Should we ask?
Oh my God.
I'd love to ask him. I'd love to. You know what? I really would like to talk negotiating style with him, because it worked against the Leafs. He did it. He got it. And if you don't remember Darren Ferris, he's the guy that after Austin Matthews signed his extension, came out in front of the entire media and said, this is crap and Mitch Marner gets no respect and what a garbage deal for the Leafs. And then proceeds to get his client a pretty high number and did a pretty good job of it. And, Chris Johnston put some really gave it some context a couple episodes ago. If you're interested in that, would encourage you to check it out. But, of course, he was on SiriusXM's Hot Stove, and he mentioned that some teams had made contract offers to his clients. So, of course, they're like, well, okay, were the Coyotes one of them? And he said, no.
Wait, which clients?
Well, he's got other clients other than Taylor Hall.
I was about to say, because no one is allowed to make Taylor Hall a contract offer right now except for the Coyotes.
No,
the season is still ongoing.
Because they were asking about, for the same thing we were talking about last episode, who signs a contract right now? Who offers a contract right now, right? So Darren Ferris has had some contract extension offers, but the Coyotes have not made one. Now, here's what John Shaka said earlier this week. He said, I've shared some calls with Darren. I think we're both trying to get our head around this scenario and how it affects the Coyotes and how it potentially affects Taylor. It's unique. And this was from March 28th, so it was a couple weeks ago. Sorry, I thought it was later than that. I don't have an answer for you other than to say, no, we haven't exchanged numbers or anything like that. So that's interesting.
It is it's easy to pounce on the guy. Believe me, I don't really feel bad about it. But, it is a super weird situation. The bigger the money is, the more difficult the conversation is. If you're on the lower end of things, you have a $900,000 contract offer. Are you going to fight that hard for 1.2? Because you have no idea what the hell is going on. You're probably going to latch onto the security. Mm-hmm. If you're a big money guy like Taylor Hall, like even if he took an extraordinary discount, which I don't know, which that could even be what he's making right now, can the Coyotes afford that? Can any team that doesn't have fans in their building right now or for the foreseeable future afford that? It's a really, really weird world we're in, man.
It sure is.
Really weird world.
It sure makes some other situations very interesting. Alex Pietrangelo, Marco Scandella, Vince Dunn, the whole thing in St. Louis is one. But the Blue Jackets did make a signing, and that's their goalie, Joonas Korpisalo. 2-year extension, $2.8 million per season.
Fantastic value.
Great value.
Fantastic value. The only hesitance at all is the big injuries, but it's short term. It's very little money. Mm-hmm. Wonderful value.
And if you're starting goaltenders coming in at that number, that's incredible.
Yeah. And they got to look for value. And would you rather have Korpisalo at, what was it, 2.8?
Yep.
Korpisalo at 2.8 or Bobrovsky at 10? 2.8.
Yeah. We saw how that worked out.
That one. The one that's that one. Yeah. And you have two other goalies behind you for dirt cheap. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Scout. You won't regret it.
Well, and that brings us to, and you mentioned this earlier, what happens with Alex Pietrangelo in St. Louis. I think the writing was on the wall when they made the trade with Carolina earlier this year.
It was a weird one.
Justin Faulk. I don't know why I said Braun earlier. Justin Faulk. They traded for him and then handed him a insane extension. 7 years, $6.5 million, which I guess, it's pretty good value. It's fine. 7 years is a long time, though. And I think at that point, we should have said, well, Pietrangelo can't be back. So then they trade for Marco Scandella at the trade deadline with Montreal. And Scandella, who is 30 years old, got a 4-year deal, $3.275 million per season. So between Faulk and Scandella, you're paying $10 million. That's 1/8 of your cap, 2 players. Can you really put another 1/8 of your cap or more behind Alex Pietrangelo at this point?
And it's those 2 players. I know people are immediately going to go, well, the Leafs. Man, Marco Scandella and Justin Faulk.
It's an odd commitment.
No.
It's odd.
No, not for me. Not for me. And also, on earth...
You mean not for you as in, it's not for you?
Oh, to take those 2 players instead of Petro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know. I wasn't
sure. It wasn't.
No, I don't think I would have made the Faulk deal in the first place. Also, I don't know how you make the Scandella extension without knowing something else. You know what I mean? Or at least having a really strong feeling about something else. Do the Blues have a really strong feeling that they have a deal in place? Do they have a really strong feeling that Pietrangelo will sign for a reasonable number? Do they feel like Pietrangelo is just going to walk anyway? Do they feel like no one's going to be able to afford him, or everyone's going to be, there will be no Austin Matthews threat of some team swooping in and offering $16 million right now. That's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Or even 10 or something like that. So I don't know, for a team like the Blues, is this they know something about the negotiations with Petro that's negative, or does something about their current situation and the information they have give them confidence?
But only thing is, when they locked up Scandella, it looks like they just don't have the cap space in the 2021 season to give Pietrangelo the market value that he's worth.
Yeah, but like that's how it is now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the thing that frustrates me about down the line conversations is they always go, well, look, they can't afford him. Yeah, now you can do all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what should they do? A trade? Yes, that's precisely what they should do. They're allowed.
Something they could look at. I mean, is this potentially Alex Steen's last year?
Like, will he retire?
Yeah.
Because then we're talking if they want to keep him, you got to move somebody off the roster. There's no choice. And Alex Steen might be that candidate.
So Alex Steen gets you 5.75. And then if this is Carl Gunnarsson's last year, then that gets you another 1.75. So you're now $7 or $8 million right there.
Well, no, Gunnarsson signed through next season.
Right. But if he retires, they don't pay him. And same with Steen.
Alex Steen here. Let me look at this.
Do you think Gunnarsson will retire at 33? I think he's still young.
I don't think he's.
Yeah, but he has that wicked hip issue that he's had ever since he was even on the Leafs. Alex Steen, who has had a fantastic career. I made a video about the initial trade from the Leafs. Like, what a mistake getting rid of this guy. I want to say it's 7 of his NHL seasons, he's received Selke votes. He received Hart votes one year, including one for third place. He's played over 1,000 games, 622 points. But this past season, 7 goals, 10 assists, 17 points in 55 games. The previous season, 27 in 65. And that's coming off of being a pretty perennial 50-plus point player. The sun's setting on Alex Steen's career. And now that he's got the Stanley Cup, who knows what's going to happen there. Also, I don't know this. Maybe you guys can help. Do we know if there's been an announcement or like a decision made on Jay Bouwmeester's future? Because
I think he's on LTIR, but I believe this is his last year anyway, isn't it? In that
is
deal?
it? Okay, I don't know.
I thought it was. He's not on the roster, so non-roster players. I'm looking for him on here.
There's all kinds of things that could happen.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. Yeah. So he's on LTIR, but this would have been his last season anyway. So you save $3 million on him, say $2 million on Carl Gunnarsson, and maybe Alex Steen goes on LTIR. Maybe he retires. Maybe he plays another year. But there's potential there where the Blues have some guys who are frankly just aging out of the league, who could open them up to potentially signing Pietrangelo. But I think Pietrangelo's got to give a little bit here too.
Yeah.
You got to recognize the situation that you're in. You can go get your $10 million a season. I'm sure that there will be a team willing to pay him that or close to it. However, when you're talking about chances to win the cup, especially when you're 30 years old, when you're 30 and you've been on the team this long, do you really want to go start new somewhere? Is that really what you want? Do you really want to go and try to develop a new culture and go in with sort of like a target on your back? I mean, especially if you would factor in, and he's not coming to Toronto, so don't let me suggest this, but if you were to come to Toronto with that much money, it sort of puts a target on you rather than you're the guy who's been on the team and you shave $1 million off of what your salary could have been on the open market, or $1.5 million or something like that. And, you're beloved in that market forever. And you get a couple more shots at the Stanley Cup. Because I'm looking at some of the core players here. Ryan O'Reilly is still 29. Jaden Schwartz is 27. Braden Shen is 28. Bozak signed for a couple more years. He's 34, but he's older. Those are some of the major guys, up front. And then you've got Parayko I guess Faulk, Scandella, a pretty solid looking thing. They've got to re-sign Vince Dunn as well. And, Jake Allen and Jordan Binnington are signed for 2 more years each.
Yeah, and people might forget that St. Louis is sitting at 2nd overall in the NHL and 1st in the Western Conference at the close of the season.
They're the absolute perfect team to sign a 2 or 3 year deal with.
Yeah,
or sign your 8-year deal, but make it $7 million a year.
Yeah, I think at 30 you're looking for that 6, 7, 8 year deal, right?
Yeah.
I think you want this to be your last contract, and why not have it in St. Louis?
It's a tough time to be a 30-year-old on an expiring deal, because you are thinking about that nest egg contract, and I just don't know if it's going to be there for some guys. On the Alex,
I think it will be for Pietrangelo if he wants.
Yeah, if you're a particularly special player, yeah. On the Alex Steen front, by the way, and this could be a thing, he's 5.75 against the cap, but makes $3.5 million actual dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So could there maybe be like a ghost contract sort of trade there? I don't know.
Call the Coyotes.
Well, you said it, not me, but that is exactly what I was thinking. That's,
I think
where those deals go.
There are outlets there for them to save some cash.
You know, another good option for them if they really wanted to make a deal, because they're not really rivals anymore with Detroit. I think Detroit's a prime candidate to take on bad money.
And they have it.
They have the money. Yeah, it was like what New York was sort of doing. New York, unfortunately, wasn't bad for long enough. I mean, they're still on the edge, but like Jeff Gordon's done such a great job that I thought that they would at least be bad for this season and then maybe start to challenge next season, but they turned it around really, really quickly.
What was the year they sent out the letter about rebuilding?
It's like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago. And they were in a playoff spot and they pulled the chute. Like the Rangers never were properly bad.
No.
Like
kind of nice.
They did a miracle job. Like they're so good. So good. Really admire what they've done with the team.
100%. And so I wonder if, Detroit starts. If I was the GM in Detroit, I'd be calling around just to see like, hey, I noticed you got some older guys there.
That guy
what can we? What's that?
That the GM in Detroit, you got a name there, Adam?
I don't know who the GM in Detroit is.
No.
Do they have one?
It's freaking shut up.
Does it even matter?
No. It's Adam Wilde in your scenario, so I don't know why I said anything.
I didn't know it mattered that much to mention Detroit's GM's name.
No. Stevie Y, I mean, who's that guy?
Yeah. Well, if, again, and we've always said this, if Steve Yzerman calls you, he's fleecing you. Hang up the phone.
Hi, this is Steve. Click. You don't even stick around for the Y.
Nope, not interested. Thanks. I wonder if there are GMs that get that for a while, that like, wow, this GM's on a heater. Nobody pick up the phone.
Or if you're getting a call from Minnesota, you're like, yes, I got to take this.
Well, when Paul Fenton was on, it's like, what crazy things is Paul going to say today?
Yeah.
There's two people I really want to have on the podcast, and that's Brian Burke and Colby Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask Brian Burke, like, listen, over the years, I heard so many stories about you. Is this story true where you were offered a 2-for-1 deal that was so bad you just replied with fuck off and hung up? This is my favorrit story.
I'm sure Brian Burke will come on.
I hope he does.
I think he would.
Yeah.
You would?
Colby, he's gotta. He came on the watch party yesterday and was just like, he's got that 8-year-old at the park energy, and he's in his 30s and he cannot be contained.
This is Colby Armstrong.
Oh, and Brian Burke has just hit that magical point in his career where he becomes an amazing broadcaster because he just does not care. Just like he already did not care. Mm-hmm. He cares so much less now. And he's just like, I'll just tell you everything. I'll tell you everything on Twitter.
And he's got the stories too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just the back pocket stuff he's got lying around. I can tell you this one today. And I would love to have Brian Burke on the show.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be great. So, yeah, I think Pietrangelo probably can stay with the Blues. I was surprised that Scandella got as much as he did. Am I the only one?
No, I agree.
No, 100%.
Seems high, doesn't it?
It just doesn't seem like the body of work is there to warrant that contract. They're buying for the future, but like, why are you betting on Scandella? Why?
Well, especially when he's 30.
Yeah. I don't get it.
He's not a analytics darling by any stretch of the imagination. They're not buying good years.
And he's your fourth maybe defenseman.
And he's had 13 points each of the last 2 seasons.
Like you want to make that deal, if you're most other teams, whatever, fine. And I don't know if it'll bite you that bad, but if you're the Blues and it might cost you Pietrangelo, what are you doing?
Could they have made that deal though without knowing what the Pietrangelo situation was? Like, if you're,
I don't think so. I think they must know something. They must know something one way or another. That's what I'm trying to say. They must. There's no way they're like, we'll sign Marco Scandella and the Pietrangelo dice will fall where it falls. Like they must know something. They must. One way or another. They must.
Yeah. They're too well run, I think, as a team.
We'll sign Marco, and if we don't get Petro. Whoops.
All right. Are they waiting this whole thing out? And they have it in the back pocket. They kind of know where their cap and everything's going to fall out and what he's going to sign for. And they're just kind of waiting for all this to be done and off season to hit. I don't know.
They probably have a number in mind, and it's just it could be such a big commitment that if they do something drastic, like drop the cap, and it would completely bone them, they're like, here, let's just listen. We're cool. We have a great relationship. You see that ring? Yeah, you like it? We'll figure it out. Here's the number. Let's make sure once the cap is written in stone, and then we'll put it in ink.
That would make a lot more sense than what's currently going on.
Which
is just, who knows?
Justin Faulk is the same.
No. Plug in Robert Bertuzzo. He'll take Petro's minutes. Like, what?
Well, what if you just made a trade? Can't do that. Nope. They must know something one way or another.
Right. I think 2 of the 3 former Leafs on that team are going to retire this season. I think that's what's going to happen.
I think you're
retire
right.
As in hit up Robidoux Island, LTIR, and we'll
potentially. I would. Why retire?
Because the retirement doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Retiring, it makes absolutely zero sense. But I would come to camp hurt for the team that I won the cup for. Oh boy, I'm really hurt. Yeah. I'll play along with that for another $3 million. Sure, why not?
Like Chris Pronger was in the Hall of Fame, but still on a roster, right?
Yes.
And working for the NHL.
Yeah.
But rules matter, guys. The rules matter.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Rules for sure matter. It's definitely not like a whole like family run sort of business. Right?
Made up monkey business.
Yeah.
Like you collect a paycheck with the Coyotes on it, and then you have a hearing with one of them.
Handing out suspensions. Yeah.
Is that now? He was getting paid by an NHL team, right? When he was on LTIR.
I think he was getting paid by several. I think he was getting paid by more than one. I'm not totally sure.
Did the NHL own the Coyotes at the time?
I don't think so.
At that point,
it could not have been that perfect, could it?
That would have been awesome.
I'm just going to throw it out there. If you played with a single solitary human being who's active in the National Hockey League, you shouldn't be allowed to be in charge of player safety.
Well,
that rules out a lot.
I don't mind that. I think you have to govern that by. I think you can't disqualify people from that. I think maybe not having a company called Make Hockey Violent Again might help.
What?
But it's called Violent Gentlemen, but they're Make Hockey Violent Again. They're like, well, the orange thing has a phrase. What if we also made?
Well, isn't that the same? Well, doesn't the guy who runs player safety? Isn't he an owner in that? Isn't he part of that?
George Peros. I don't know if he's a owner, part owner, or spokesperson. I think he's a spokesperson.
But yeah, he used to wear
George
hats.
Peros is the spokesperson for Make Hockey Violent Again.
For Violent Gentlemen, it's called.
Violent
He
Gentlemen.
sells shirts that say "Make Hockey Violent Again."
Yeah,
and people are very upset about it.
I've never heard this before.
It's not that you go endorse whatever you want, but it seems to me like NHL player safety is a bit of a specialized gig. So what you don't want maybe is guys walking around with T-shirts like that. Not because I don't care about the political side of it. It's not clearly political. It's about Violent Gentlemen and about the brand or whatever. But if you are a former fighter, now I think Peros went to didn't he go to Harvard or something? He was quite smart.
He's a very smart guy.
And you're a former fighter, and then you wear that, and then you want to be the head of player safety. It's sort of like I think it, unfortunately, whether he deserves that or not, it has affected his ability with every ruling. And
it's like if the three
rulings
of us
haven't been good either.
There's a conflict of interest there.
Clearly,
it's like if the three of us were involved in an organization called "Hey, why don't we beat up some podcasters?"
No, but then we would also have to be the ruling on podcast fighting. You know, we'd have to be one handing down suspensions on podcast fighting.
Why don't we go?
Which I don't think we are.
Leaf Report wants to fight Spit and Chicklets, which, for the record, I don't recommend. And then we got to moderate that. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, Myrtle and Siegel versus Biz Nasty, Ryan Whitney,
or Mikey Stevens and Justin Cuthbert just get all their teeth rearranged by Ryan Whitney and Paul Bissonnette. You know, I'm volunteering them for this, by the way. They didn't ask for this. You imagine? Hey, Paul. Hey, I don't
I
know.
hope so. I hope that happens. Actually, let's start that rumble.
Yeah, you're bored, aren't you? Start a fight.
Can we get Leafs lunch to fight Hockey Central at noon?
Ooh,
Why not?
Oh man. Well, actually, it was funny. Leafs lunch had today. Not Leafs lunch. Sorry, Hockey Central at noon had today. Mark Spector and Chris Johnston talking about where Dustin Byfuglien is most likely to end up, and it seems like with Dustin, the major consensus is after his contract was terminated mutually by Winnipeg and by himself, and walks away from $15 million.
Mm-hmm.
If you're walking away from $15 million, you probably have some money, but that feels like done to me. Doesn't that feel like done to you?
Well, I found it very interesting that it did not come on the same day that the Scandella contract was announced.
Thursday.
And everyone's like, oh, well, that means, they're letting Petro walk. And it's almost like all these Tetris pieces are slowly being worked into little slots there. I don't think Byfuglien's done.
You don't think he's done?
No, he's done with the Jets.
Done. I'm on.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
He doesn't play hockey ever again. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he even puts on skates.
The one thing that gives me pause is he's notoriously a bad off-season player. And what if you're off for like a year and a half with an injury / pandemic and you're $3 bills?
Yeah.
I think if Dustin Byfuglien still wanted to play hockey, we would have seen him suit up in September. I think there came a point where it was just he doesn't want to play hockey anymore. This is all just guessing, but that's how it looks to me.
Yeah.
Also, does he now? And I seem to remember something like this with Nathan Horton, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But maybe he requires some sort of surgery that makes it so that, like, you're done. You know what I mean? And that would basically nullify his contract. I can't remember. Wouldn't he have gotten the surgery and then just put on LTIR and then gotten the money? It sounds like he doesn't have any injury that could get him his money. Plus, he didn't want to play. Yeah. I mean, feelings are a thing. Like this actually reminds me a little bit of Owen Nolan with the Leafs, because there was a dispute going into the lockout where the Leafs owed him like $6 million or something. He argued. And their argument was heading into the full season of the lockout was, well, no, you're injured. Or something like that. There was something in there, and basically that damaged the relationship. It was irreparable. But he did end up going on to play for at least one other team.
Mm-hmm.
I think he went on to play for several. Like, you remember when he was a Coyote for a hot minute and Minnesota Wild for a hot minute? So it could be one of those things where, because it was ugly. It was like, I want to say there was like misdiagnosis or like there was some sort of misinformation. So maybe he wants to play hockey, just nowhere near the Winnipeg Jets anymore.
But to walk away from $15 million?
Yeah.
So the thing is...
but all the reports on Buff is he's a weird guy and would do something like that.
Okay, and that's fair. But even from... Like, he would have to push for that because no agent's ever going to push for that. No legal advisor is ever going to push for that.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So my question then becomes, okay, if that was the case, then his ankle injury would have had to be so bad and his anger about the Jets would have had to be so bad that he, like, because what he did, or at least the way it looks, and I'm not saying this is what he did or it was an intentional thing, but because of this contract thing, Winnipeg was not able to get out. And I think that, they went through last summer assuming they would have him. And then, so, I feel like you could have traded Dustin Byfuglien if he would have agreed to come out. Like if he would have agreed to play, even if it was for nothing. Because the most valuable thing in the NHL to have is cap space. And that's what hampered them. I mean, they had a great season anyway. But it hampered them from being able to pull any other asset in. They couldn't trade Byfuglien. They couldn't do anything with him. So it's sort of it would be odd to me to go through all of that just to have him come back with another team when that could have been accomplished many different ways, probably easier and probably more lucratively for him. Like there's just, to me, there's something that doesn't, there's a piece missing here. I can't even put my finger on it, where I look at the Dustin Byfuglien situation and think, I don't know. it seems an awful lot like he wanted to be finished with this. And because if he didn't, there was many other ways to get to play for another team that he could have had. And he would have never had to suit up for the Jets again. Like
Why not announce your retirement right away? Like with this announcement, okay, we're mutually terminating my contract. Why not just right away and also I retire?
Yeah. Just say I'm too injured.
That's why I think he's done with the Jets, but he's not done. Or maybe he wants to see if he can use this time off. You know, who knows when then? Because he can't play this season, so we're talking next season, whenever that is. Like that could be January.
This season?
He could, but with the Jets. But he terminated his contract. So as far as I know, he can't play the 2019-2020 season unless he were to sign a contract with the team, play for them, but he wouldn't be eligible for the playoffs.
Why wouldn't he be?
No, because you got to be on the roster by trade deadline to make the playoff to play.
Yeah.
The playoffs.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Then there's still the question of what was the holdups in September in that was he injured or just why didn't he want to play?
I think it's feelings. Because wasn't there the misdiagnosis, like they didn't catch a broken bone in his ankle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think it's feelings. But I also think the Jets wanted him. Like I think the Jets thought they could fix this, and they couldn't. And
so he comes to them is like, I don't want to be in your organization anymore. And they're like, we don't have to trade you. We don't have to terminate your contract right now or anything like that. We're going to try and work this out. And then and then they take all this time and nothing gets resolved. And then we reach this point.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, teams don't like letting players who are never going to play for them again dictate the terms. Very different situation, but like the Oilers with Puljujärvi, they were doing okay, and they're like, all right, well, we'll just hold on to you, and you can sit, enjoy Finland, enjoy whatever. Karpat, I can't remember the team he plays for. 4th overall pick. You don't want to play in the NHL? Oh, you do want to play in the NHL? Well, we control that, right? So you can play for us. You want to play for? Well, then you can't play in the NHL. You know what I mean? So. It could have been something like that. You guys are onto something though. Like I just feel like there's very key points that we're missing here, and you can't underestimate the factor of that's a different dude. Like all reports are,
but you can overestimate that. And
sure you can.
And what I'm saying is, even with Elliot Friedman, when he's reported on this, has not been clear.
Yeah.
And he's been like, well, there's this and there's that, and you can tell there's something that he knows that he can't report, but there's something he knows for sure.
He could just be one of those guys, man. Like Jerome McGinley, everyone knew. But once the season's over, you're not going to be able to get a hold of him. Like he just liked disappearing into the mountains with his family, and that was his prerogative.
But there still has to be a reason for his actions.
Yeah,
and we don't know that reason.
Right, and I'm not even Adam. I don't even know if Friedge knows. Like,
I think Friedge knows, but I think Friedge is classy enough to not push it.
Friedge isn't classy.
To me, Friedge just seems like the kind of guy who's like, you know what? I think there might be something personal here, and I'm not gonna just come out and say it. But there's something that doesn't make sense here. No matter how many times it's reported, no matter how much information comes out about it, something does not add up.
Blake Wheeler threw his tracksuit in the shower. That's what I think happened.
Oh, I was like, wait a second. Is that how the story went? Oh, wait.
So there's a gun to your head, Adam and Steve, and you have to place a bet on whether or not Dustin Byfuglien plays a game in the NHL ever again. What do you say? Yes.
I'm going to say no.
Yes.
All right. We will see.
With whom, Steven?
Yes.
Seattle.
Minnesota.
What about Seattle?
Ooh. Minnesota.
Minnesota. Is that his home state?
I think so.
Okay. Why Minnesota then? Other than that,
because I think that's his home state.
Okay.
He is American.
Okay.
The way you communicated that was Was
He's from Minneapolis. Yes.
Okay, what I was trying to figure out was what your reasoning was, Steve, not what his might be. So
that's why I was cagey about it, because I'm like, I think he's from Minnesota. Man, he was really good last year. 31 points in 42 games.
He's a good player.
8 points in 6 playoff games. Jeez.
Yeah, but you can't do that if your legs are broken.
No, you can't, but you can maybe recover. We'll see. I guess we'll see.
We will see. A very interesting development over, I think it was late last week now. This weekend just flew by. Bill Peters has signed with a Russian team. And
Avtomobilist.
That's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, so about that. Well, here, sorry. You get into it, and I'll talk about Avtomobilist very briefly.
So Ivis Kalnich reported this, and then reported that Nigel Dawes, who is the captain of Avtomobilist, has left the team. And I want to throw this out there. Nigel Dawes is a black
American.
Yeah. And so that was an interesting ad. Now, I can't find anything to back that up. So that's one reporter saying it. But I think it's an interesting thing because he's been the captain and a star there for a long time.
Yes, an absolute star. He's been an all-star, I think, more seasons than he hasn't been. He had 50 points in 59 games this past season, 69 in 60 the season before. And I really got to emphasize, it's so hard to put up those numbers in the KHL. He had 4 straight 30-plus goal seasons in the KHL, which is so hard to do. And I guess, he's not really afraid to play anywhere. He played for Boris Astana in Kazakhstan, and now Avtomobilist in Yekaterinburg. So what I got to say about that, I've mentioned this on the podcast before. A lot of North Americans, if they sign in the KHL, they typically tend to play in the West, the Western Conference. So they'll play in like a St. Petersburg or a Moscow or one of the non-Russian countries. Joffrey Lupul went to Yekaterinburg during the lockout because it was one of the only places remaining. He was a late player to sign, and I think he lasted 9 games because he had like a visa issue, and I think there was I remember him on a podcast talking about like paper bags of money, real old school KHL shit, and he just said, screw this. Yeah. So for Bill Peters to go to Avtomobilist, to me suggests there weren't many prospects for him. But if Nigel Dawes leaves, that's in the KHL, that's seismic. That's a big player.
I want to applaud him for taking a stand against something he clearly believes in. And it sounds like he has a lot of options because of how good a player he is. And he's exercising those options as a good player, being like, hey, I don't have to play here. And this is against where I stand morally. And I'm going to make that decision. So shout out Nigel for doing that.
Yeah,
Do you have Akeem Alou's statement there?
Well, I do, and I was going to get to that in just a second, but I did want to throw this out there. Weird, because when I looked up Nigel Dawes, it says Canadian Kazakhstani player. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Nobody's really mentioned that.
Because he played in Kazakhstan.
So he played in Kazakhstan for 3 years. So if you're there for 3 years.
Wow. Oh, a lot longer than that.
Well, okay, so hold on, though. What I'm saying is you need the legal requirements.
I'm sorry, man. Sorry. I was like, what? He played there for 7. What are you talking about?
You got his assist numbers wrong. That's the point you were trying to make, right?
Shut up.
All I'm saying is the legal side of it is, which allowed him and Brandon Bochinski and Dustin Boyd to play for Kazakhstan at the World Hockey Championships 2016, which is kind of neat. It's just a neat fact. Right?
Last season, he played with Lyndon Vey. Any Canucks fans or Kings fans listening to this? Wow. And Matt Fratton.
Frat Sanity.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I love looking at KHL rosters and going, look at that name. I remember you.
Brandon Bochinski was supposed to be something.
Oh, yeah.
Supposed to be something. I remember that.
So
Akeem Alou's statement I thought was pretty amazing. And I'm going to read it out to you. So I'm reading this from NBC Sports, who broke it up. So I'm going to have to move through it a little bit. He said, only with the past behind us can we focus on the future. Hockey is for all. I believe in second chances for everyone, that we can find forgiveness in our heart, and that real positive change is coming if we continue to push forward together. I don't resent a man for finding work, but I will fight to make sure those same opportunities are available to everyone on and off the ice, regardless of race or ethnicity. And he also said he is patiently looking forward to the outcome of the NHL's investigation because of the allegations, because I don't believe that that's been done.
Well, it hasn't been finished. No.
It's not been finished yet.
And since life is on hold, I assume it won't be finished for a little bit.
Yeah. He said, I think as time goes on, we all grow and improve and become better versions of ourselves. And I'm no different, Bill Peters said. This is what Bill Peters said, excuse me. He said, you'll learn from all the experiences that you're in and you become better. So that's very, very interesting as well, because he had a call with the Russian media, and that was the most. And I think, I think that was sort of, as soon as the Bill Peters information came out, it was sort of just assumed the KHL was where he would end up, right?
I don't know. I wasn't sure he would ever coach again. I didn't automatically assume the KHL. There's lots of leagues, he could have gone to. He chose that one, I guess.
Right.
They chose him.
Or they chose him. Listen, I think you can't group them because they're not the same. But you talk about unforgivable things in society, right? Things that are just about you got to pay some real penance for things. And the other name that comes to mind for me is Slava Voinov, and he ended up in the KHL. And I just feel like I have a hard time. They're very different situations, but there are some similarities. And for me, it's sort of like the chances of you seeing Slava Voinov in the NHL again, I think, are just zero. I think it's just not going to happen.
I think there was a time where it was a distinct possibility, and now I just don't think it's going to happen.
I doubt. I would imagine that Bill Peters' opportunity to play or to coach in the NHL is also passed. I think that's done.
Yeah.
So, it just seems Russia oddly seems like the place where sometimes that's what happens. And I don't know why that is.
Well, I mean,
do you know what I mean?
It's not like you mess up in the in the KHL and that's where you go. Like there's no one in the NHL has ever been accused of anything terrible. Craig Berube was suspended for a racial slur, and that guy's the coach of the reigning Stanley Cup champions. Right. So it's not just you messed up, now you're done here, you go to the KHL. Like, it sticks around in the NHL too.
Jesse, what was your reaction when you saw this news?
I love the beginning of Lou's statement there. If you want to read the first couple of sentences again, just about second chances and hockey being for all.
Right. Only with the past behind us can we focus on the future. Hockey is for all. I believe in second chances for everyone, that we can find forgiveness in our heart, and that real positive change is coming if we continue to push forward together.
I don't know what Bill Peters has done personally or like where his heart lies, but if he deserves a second chance and forgiveness, I definitely believe that he should get it, because that second chances are very important, and understanding that people can change and that as society gets better, people will get better. Mm-hmm. So I hope that this is where his career has landed, because this is where it should be, and that the people around him who he's shown, like, who he's apologized to, who he's tried to change for, have seen that, and that he deserves forgiveness from the people that he's hurt.
Yeah, and this wasn't Lou just butting in out of nowhere. Like, a lot of people were like, "Hey, what do you think?"
Of course.
And so he got the they asked, and he got the statement out there very quickly. He said his piece, and I don't know. I think Lou after this will be pretty happy to have his hands washed of him.
Yeah, and it's important to recognize the other side as well. There's just people who will forever feel uncomfortable being coached by him, like Nigel, reportedly, if that is true.
Yeah, we don't know.
If it is true, then he has that right to just be like, no, I want to exit this situation because of what Bill Peters did in the past. But it doesn't mean that the people that he's hurt can't forgive him and that he can't ever coach again.
So do you see a world where, and this is just a personal opinion, do you see a world where it's acceptable to see Bill Peters back in the NHL as a coach again?
That's a tough one. I wouldn't be the one to give him that opportunity. I think what happened, it proved that he isn't good enough as a leader to deserve the coaching responsibilities at the highest level of hockey. I think that's reserved for the 32 best coaches in the world. And I don't believe that he is one of those. So I don't ever see that happening again.
His results would tell you that as well.
Yeah. Like
just on paper,
just
outside
on
of
results,
that stuff. And then you add on that top of it. That's my opinion. I don't see him ever coaching in the league.
Okay. So let's go to an alternate reality. And this is an unfair question, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Yeah.
Alternate reality. Bill Peters is a really good coach. Okay. Alternate reality. It's like, wow. He's like, well, like, holy smokes, he's a really good coach, but he just happens to be super flippin' racist sometimes.
Yeah, if he has the resume of Scotty Bowman,
right?
I still don't give him the second chance in the NHL because what I said about his just skills of managing people. Like that's not somebody I'm putting in charge of my $1 million hockey players.
And you could see that with the Flames roster this season, that they were just kind of, okay, I'm done with this guy. My question to you is, and it's not a Bill Peters question, it's a receipts question.
Mm-hmm.
It's a, Akeem Alou believes in second chances. You love that statement. You really like that part of it. What's a second chance look like? What does it take you for what does it take to see? And I'm asking you, Jesse, because you're in the unique position on this show that you can actually speak to this. So, what would it take for you to say, okay, this guy deserves a second chance? What receipts do you want to see? What kind of work do you want to see someone put in?
You have to believe in someone's character for you to forgive them. You have to believe that deep down in their character that they are not the person who committed those actions anymore. You got to see, hey, if it's directly these things what you did, then it's like, hey, then you have to go out in the communities and help minorities in hockey. If you did something like that with minorities in hockey, if it's whatever else transgressions you had, you just want to see somebody give back to the people you hurt. You got to have some actionable instances where it's like, okay, you're trying to change as well as boost up the communities that you've hurt, whether it's minorities, whether it's women, whether it's just anybody who's marginalized that you did this to, whether it's somebody on your same level. You just need to fix it and then grow as a person and change your character of who you are as somebody who wouldn't in the future ever commit that again.
Right. And that was an interesting part of Bill Peters' story is this incident happened, I want to say 11 years ago. And I did see, some people right away go, well, that was a very long time ago. But then very soon after you had, Hurricanes players coming out and going, well, it wasn't that, but he was like kicking me and, all sorts of terrible things as recently as 2 or 3 years ago.
When those secondary stories came out about Bill Peters, you didn't believe that his character had changed. You didn't believe that he had worked towards those receipts. And that's what, to answer your question, that's what you need to see. You need to see over that 11-year period, if Bill Peters was a different person from that decade, maybe there would have been a second shot in the NHL. And if he was a better coach, maybe there's a second shot in the NHL. But it appears that there wasn't ever. There's just this huge chasm of just terrible stories. So how are we supposed to ever forgive you? Well, at this point, how are we
and because of that, you reminded me that Mark Crawford was being investigated, right? It was sort of like, so, they investigated him and because there were players that came out and said some things. Was it Brent Sopel? Mm-hmm. And I think Sean Avery mentioned it in his book, but Sean Avery mentioned it in a I needed it sort of way. And
Brent Sopel, they took old and very publicly known comments of his, and then he had to come out after, and he even though he told those stories, he was like, whoa, I have no problem with Mark Crawford. It was a really, Mark Crawford was a strange one, but he was allowed to come back, wasn't he?
He was, but I think that's because he went to and had the proof of, and we're talking about receipts, he had the proof of years of therapy.
Yeah, you want to see that somebody's worked on themselves. Yeah, and Mark Crawford did do that.
Right, and then I think enough people stood up for him to say, well, wait a second. Had issues before, but probably worked on a lot of them. So anyway, it's a very tough story. It's even now to talk about. Like, I'm still uncomfortable with how to approach it. But I think that's because you want to be as sensitive to the subject as you can be, and try not to miss anything, because it's important to get this stuff right. There was a real, the pandemic is what it is for the business side of the game. But you mentioned it earlier, I think a couple weeks ago, Jesse. It's this year has been a real come to Jesus for a lot of things that were kind of ugly in the NHL.
Yeah, it's really when I look back on 1920, I remember those stories more than I remember the hockey. I remember it being kicked off with Don Cherry and just then the whole just mountain of stuff coming down about people. And yeah, that's how I look back on this season. And it's not ever how you want to look at something
It
you
was,
love, you know?
Don Cherry got fired 40 years ago. Like,
It's how it feels.
Yeah.
How it feels.
I can't believe that happened this year.
I know.
Holy cow.
I know.
Holy cow. Hey, remember that time an NHL team fired a coach and they had to release a press statement saying they fired him for hockey reasons? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This season was absolutely insane.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a really, really a lot happened.
And with that, we're going to go to the press conference.
To kick off the press conference, I would like to talk about Too Hot to Handle, my favorite show on Netflix.
All right. So Jesse, by the way, is now, I don't know what it is. Is it, Jesse, is it your girlfriend, or is it just that you've always been obsessed with this and you've never told us about it? But you were the first guy I knew on Love is Blind. Like, you were on that. And now you're on this show. And explain the premise of this show, because it is just wild.
So it's definitely, because it's something me and my girlfriend can do together, that then the people are entertaining enough that I definitely get enjoyment out of it. But yeah, we watch bad reality TV, so it's a good time. But Too Hot to Handle is a new Netflix show that came out on Friday. I believe all 8 episodes are already up. But yeah, I haven't gotten to episode 8, but I think it's the last one. Anyway, so these 10 people plus one more, so it becomes 11 people. Bryce joins in episode 2. So start off, it's 10
Bryce.
people. Bryce
No spoilers. No
we'll
spoilers.
get to Bryce. Bryce is the worst.
No spoilers.
10 people, they're put on this island resort in Mexico. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And it's the 10 hottest people that Netflix could find.
Okay, so
from all over the world. You got people from London, you got someone from Australia, you got an Irish, you got one girl from BC.
Hey.
One girl from Florida, a dude from Jersey, people from all over the world. They get together really hot on this island, and they tell them, you can't have sex. There's a $100,000 pot for whoever is left at the end. We don't know if there are eliminations yet, so we don't know how it's going to be at the end. We don't know if all 11 people are going to be there. We don't know what's going to happen. But there's a $100,000 pot. And every time you break a rule set by Lana, which is their like Alexa box, so they just kind of have this little
it's
smart
like this
speaker.
Sits in the middle of the room and it's like, don't bang.
It looks like a Google Home, and it sits all around the resort. There's like a bunch of them, and they call it Lana, and then Lana talks to them. And Lana gave out the rules on day 1. You can't have sex, you can't kiss, and you can't masturbate. So those are the 3 rules.
They don't know this when they land on the island.
So yeah, when Netflix put them into this game, they didn't know this, and they tell them on I think it's day 1. It might be day 1 or day 2. They wake up and then they tell them the rules.
They all think they're going there just for a giant orgy.
So it is day 2 because they spend the whole first day being like, I'm gonna fuck this person. And we're gonna have so much
literally
sex.
Literally though.
Because Adam, you have to realize these people, they have like negative personality.
Oh man.
So the only thing they talk about is sex and how they look.
Yeah.
This is literally the only even when they're put to like have dates, it's like, hey, you're gonna sit down with this person because you have a connection, so Lana will send them on a date, and then during the whole date they'll just be like, I want to fuck you and I want to have sex with you and I can't believe we can't have sex, and like have a conversation, people.
Yeah, but they can't.
Honestly, if I had to talk about sex and my looks, the conversation might last 30 seconds. Like I don't know how you make a whole dinner out of that. Like that's tough.
So day 2, Lana sits them all down and she says, you can't, this $100,000 every time you kiss, you masturbate, or you have sex, we take out money from the $100,000 pool. So obviously day 3,
somebody breaks the rule. Don't say anything.
No.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I want to do something with this show. I want to
Okay.
make this our homework show in the way that Tiger King was our homework show. But this time we're actually going to talk about it.
Hey,
So I can't say what happens. Or...
And for all you I'm better than that crowd cringing listening to this conversation, it is the #1 show on Netflix Canada.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which means it's the number one show in the world.
The number one show in the world.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
my
It's number one on
God.
Netflix in the States. It's number one in the world. So here's the thing. Guys. we're gonna pause there, Jesse. Not because
Okay, can I talk a little bit about the people? Because you get to know them in the first 10 minutes.
Okay. Should we do next? Or should that be
long as
next?
we're
Or do you want to do it Wednesday?
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Okay.
Okay.
Wednesday. Well, because we got to
friends-
talk about the quarantine cup too.
We do gotta talk about
All right,
that.
fine.
That's
All right, listen.
Wednesday. Okay, everyone's homework is watch that.
And then
And
we're coming back.
Wednesday,
We're leading with it Wednesday.
we're leading with.
We're
leading
gonna
with
lead with Too Hot to Handle.
Yes, we're gonna
Okay.
watch. I'm watching the whole thing. I'm gonna find 8 hours in the next 36 hours to do this.
See,
That's
Jesse-
very difficult for you, Adam. You
Jesse
got a
just
lot
found out-
going on.
Jesse
Whoa,
just
I'm gonna
found out
watch
what
it.
it's like to be a contestant. I'm going to go on the podcast and I'm going to talk about Too Hot to Handle. You may not talk about Too Hot to Handle. No! Come on! That's what I thought this was all about!
So,
Ah!
Quarantine Cup Friday night was such a blast. Pete Blackburn's Extra Toasties team were so nice to let Jesse and I play for them.
Yeah.
Steve and his band of Merry Ringers kicked our butts all over the ice, like destroyed us.
3-0 series lead for Dangle
Yeah.
Navy.
Now, I felt like I want to say something. I felt like I took a lot of crap for a team that already wasn't that good.
Wow!
They already have a losing record, and then they're coming at me for playing lefty, which I told them I don't play.
So Adam didn't come to any of our practices.
That's right.
We had a bunch of extra toasties practices throughout the week leading up to Friday, and Adam showed up to 0 of them. And then Friday comes, our big game versus Dangle Navy, and Adam's on the ice, not knowing where he should be because he wasn't at practice. So
That's what it was. It couldn't be that we're just not.
and then
good.
we lost the game. So we had a scapegoat, even though
And
we were
it's-
bad.
And it's weird because I scored 3 points in those 3
We
games,
did score 3 points.
including a very nice goal. And I don't know where all the hate was coming from, but the comments were freaking hilarious.
Yeah, for anybody who didn't see
It
it,
was
the
great.
whole game we just chirped at him because he wasn't at practice.
Yeah.
And then Adam scores in the 3rd game and gets the biggest pop of the whole night.
Easily.
And
Easily
everyone
the biggest pop.
because we're like, if
Yeah, because
Adam
you
scores,
played
you have
him
to donate $1. And then
Played
he
him at forward.
Yeah.
Which the second I saw you play forward in the 3rd game, I'm like, why on earth wasn't he doing this the whole time?
I
Like,
told them that they're like,
you're so
what's your
much better."
best position in Chell? I'm like, center.
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
well,
and-
naturally,
should
we'll
be-
make you the hardest position, which is left D.
yeah.
I think you should be left wing because I think some of our other guys are better at faceoffs.
Ah,
But
fair
I don't think you should put it on defense.
No, I'll play left wing. I don't
I
care.
think Adam should be right wing because when the
No.
goalie gets into a fight, you automatically have to go to the box to serve for them.
Oh, Jesse is right
was
wing.
me.
That's
I'm
why I
right
can't
wing.
be right wing.
You can't be right.
Oh yeah, I
could
love
never.
the reveal of why am I in the box? Oh, that was so good. I think that happened to me too because I was right wing for the first game. By the way,
Yeah.
tournament's leading scorer.
Steve
You?
Dangle. Yeah,
I have
he has like 10
points because I played in all 3 games.
Wow.
I played in all 3 games. There's someone has 9, but they only played.
What's
in
the
2.
review of the 3 games from the Dangle Navy perspective?
I mean, we're all feeling very good about ourselves. Dangle Navy has had a fantastic week. We outscored you guys 18-4 over 3 games. Butter is feeling it. He's an unreal goalie right now. Last night, we won a triple overtime game to get promoted to Tier 2. And we are feeling real good. We were disappointed in the Extra Toasties leadership.
Oh, really?
Pete Blackburns?
Why would Pete take Adam
Mhm.
and not put him in a position to succeed?
Why
Why would they? Because they threw you to the Lions. You guys had your best game when you were at forward. You only lost by 4.
It's true.
It was
That's
6-2, that one. You guys scored 2 whole goals. That was a lot. Man, Omar, by the way,
Mhm.
if you've been playing EASHL for a while, but you couldn't be arsed to change your build to suit your needs. Omar was he led all of NHL 20 in the entire world in almost goals and goals that were disallowed and everything. And he changed his build and became God. He had 4 goals in that.
What was his build?
I think he's power forward now.
Okay.
Oh, you have to
And
unlock
it's
that
called
stuff, though.
loadout, not build.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
And you have to unlock that stuff. I only have like two-way forward and enforcer defenseman. I don't have time to play these games.
Those are rookie numbers. Well, I did stick up for you. I'm like, well, Adam is their only player who was a father. So
It's true.
Yeah,
it
man.
does matter. It does matter. Like
it matters a lot. You know what? You think it's not going to be hard. Like I had to buy a playpen, but one that you set up on the ground because I can't contain my child anymore because she's moving now. She's not quite crawling, but she's bum scooching, and that means you can't do anything but watch them. Like,
what's that like as a parent, like with milestones? Because you're like, yes, oh,
yeah, because now everybody's like, oh, you thought it was hard before. Get ready. You're gonna be saving them, and you're gonna have to get, you have to put up like things for stairs and like all sorts of stuff.
So you are unlocking things. It's just difficulties.
Yeah.
You're unlocking new parental challenges.
That's what it is.
And to
exactly.
think she's
you
still
have unlocked bum scooching.
Yeah.
she's still a baby. And like,
Yes.
it's not even like infant, and she's not even talking or saying anything or running away, and all that stuff is still to come.
The paperweight can move.
Right. The paperweight can move. She's moving. And by the way, some big money was raised. So let's talk about that quickly, because I want to say thank you first off to everybody on Pete's stream and on Steve's stream. What was the total from the stream, Steve?
So we set up a GoFundMe page, and Pete was collecting donations from his Twitch. And some people, Mahesh, always recurring, love you,
The best.
went straight to the website. So Pete had it was a COVID specific wing of Feeding America was his charity. And ours was conquercovid19.ca. I can't remember what Mahesh's donation was, but it was generous. And between our GoFundMe and Pete's, we raised over 2,000 Canadian dollars, and we split it evenly between the two charities. So it was over $1,000 Canadian to each charity. And I had the opportunity to interview Haley Wickenheiser a few days ago on Sportsnet's Instagram Live, and Haley Wickenheiser, out of any Canadian alive, should be on our money. Like, I'm not kidding. She should be on a bill now while she's alive, because she won.
That's a statement.
It is. But dude, she friggin' won Olympic gold medals. She's a world champion. And she decided, gosh, I just haven't achieved anything. And she decided to go to medical school while working for an NHL team. She works for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And now she's literally just like driving around the country delivering PPE. What does PPE stand for again? I learned the other day.
Personal protective equipment.
Thank you. And she mentioned that every mask, I don't know what it is in the States, but every one of those masks is $1. So for everyone who donated, you raised over 1,000 masks.
Wow.
Right?
I
don't want to disrespect someone like Viola Desmond, who was a civil rights activist who's on the money.
I didn't say take her off. I didn't say take her off the money. I just said Haley Wickenheiser
not alive,
would be
but
on the money.
Steve, I think Jesse, did Steve say take her off the money? I think that's what he
I
said.
think Steve said take Viola Desmond off the money and put Haley Wickenheiser.
Wow. All right. Let's wait. All right. Let's wait a sec. I'm not trying to get sent to Avmobil East. All right.
I'm just going to say,
all right.
Have you ever done an Avmobil East FR?
Listen, they have cool jerseys, but I draw the line that no. How dare you? How dare you? So I almost bought an Avmobil East jersey years ago because of loophole. But anyway,
just watch the comparisons.
Yeah. I didn't say take her off the money. I didn't.
Didn't you?
No! I have a limited edition Looney.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. All the coin collectors that get out for that. I've noticed, too.
There are dozens of us.
Yeah, a surprising
Dozens!
uptick in, like, because CNN's on all the time at home, and, like, they have this, like, thing where it's like, wow, we just found a new coin that it never was cast, and now you can buy them. And what's silver price going to be next year at this time? If you buy this silver coin, you could be making some big dollars. And you're like, I don't know who are the people that are buying these. And you remember when, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when Barack Obama became president, Montel Montel from like daytime.
Montel
TV.
Jordan?
Montel Jordan. Or
Or
no, Montel Williams.
Montel
Williams.
Williams.
Not. This is how we do it, Montel. That's a different Montel. Montel Williams from the Daily Talk Show that he used to have was on there selling Obama commemorative plates.
I do not recall this.
Oh, look it up. It was a thing. Anyway, heck of a press
Fun
conference.
story.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
So we
I don't
raised
know.
a lot of money.
Raised a lot of money. And we
Yeah.
hope to raise more next week.
Yeah, so we're doing it again, the charity angle. I love it.
Yep. So Friday night, this coming week, the stunning conclusion. Will there be a huge comeback or will it be just steamrolling? We're going to play all 4 games anyway.
Yes.
Yeah,
So we're going to play 4 games anyway. The loser has to donate $300 to You Can Play.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad you're so enthusiastic.
I'm going to lose on purpose.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Ooh.
And I have an announcement to make.
What's your announcement?
Martina Ortiz Luis is going to be singing the anthem, both anthems before Game 4.
Get out.
Awesome.
Are you serious?
Yep.
That's amazing.
That's so
Spoke
cool.
to Martina the other day, and she's down. So we got to figure out how to make that work technologically. I think
We'll just put her on Zoom.
Yeah. We got to figure out
I'll
how to
figure
make
it
that
out.
work.
If
But
Steve lets me do my job and doesn't call me 5 minutes before I'm trying to 3 different audio
You
sources.
want to explain what
together.
happened, Jesse? I think you should explain it. I think you need to explain this.
So we have there's 2 teams, and on PS4 to talk to your team, you set up a party chat. So the only way you can hear your team and through the PS4 is through the party chat. But you want to set up your party chat with only your team, so you're not hearing the other team's strategy. So our problem is the 3 of us are on 2 different teams, so we won't be in the same party chat, which means through the stream, if we aired the audio of the party chat, you wouldn't hear somebody not from the SDP on the SDP stream. So we had to find a way to set up a separate chat and feed that into my capture device so that all 3 of us could be on one chat as well as our party chats in game. If any of that made sense, I hope it did.
Yeah.
So
Steve.
So Steve's idea was, hey, why don't we just make one large chat where all 12 people who are playing this game can be heard at once through the live stream.
plus the 2 spares.
Plus
14.
So 14 people will be on one conference being heard at once through our live stream. And I was like, hey, if you just can handle 2 different audio sources like anybody does in television. Adam, you've worked in television. You have your broadcast, plus you have a piece in your ear where you're listening to your producer.
And I'm not good at it.
So Steve's not good at this, and I think he got a little scared because it was a little much of having 4 sets of headphones.
I'm gonna have a migraine. I'm gonna have a seizure. I can't do this. By the end of it, he had it figured out.
So by the end of it,
I had so many more people in my ears than you did, though.
And I can't operate heavy machinery while I've had an Advil, and I don't know. Yeah, like
it was a pretty good impression.
It was.
How do I?
Steve calls 5 minutes before the game and says, "What, Jesse?
We can't do this. We need all 16 people on the chat. We can't do this." And I was like, no, just try this.
The Navy was very upset, though. And they didn't like it either.
They didn't. I don't think they understood until we did it.
No, and then we did it for about 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, this is. And afterward, they were like, yeah, no, that was actually very smart.
It's
Thank you.
weird that people wouldn't trust Jesse to do what he does so well. It's so strange. I'm like, listen, for me, I guess because Jesse and I also work together every day and have for 6 years.
Yeah, about
years?
six-ish and a half.
And a half? I don't know. Yeah. So I just go, yeah, whatever.
Well, and you can understand how I would make that mistake because we've just met. So.
Well, I mean, our Jesse's and I's interaction is even more frequent than yours and Jesse's interactions, right? So that's why. But it was just very, very funny. And the other thing is, Steve, we gotta talk about something.
What?
You on live stream you are aggressive, and specifically about the quality of live stream. You're like, well, if anybody watches Nasher, this is just going to be terrible. It's supposed to be terrible. Nasher is good. You knew we sucked. And I'm not talking about you, Steve. Anybody tuning into this stream is going to know, yeah, these guys are pretty subpar. I don't think that's why they're watching. I think they're watching to hear us make fun of me. I think, But you're like, well, this is just the quality. It's just garbage here. Like, we're just a terrible quality.
You thought I was talking about the hockey?
No, I
talking
thought you
about
were
the
talking about the
hockey.
hockey. The hockey's so bad. The
Oh,
hockey's going to be bad.
I know that.
Okay.
I knew that.
Just like, I was like, man, I'm not going to step in and be Nasher good. I'll
No,
never be that good.
No,
Don't
I didn't
want to be.
No. What? No, that's not what I was talking about. The
What were you
listeners
talking about?
were aggressive.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure it all looked and sounded great. I didn't want to seem like, listen,
And in the end, it did.
I am very
It did.
aware. It did. I'm just, let me tell you, Jesse, and,
Okay.
and listen,
Okay.
here,
All right.
I got to offer my apologies
Thank
for
you.
taking out my insecurities on you,
Thank you.
being a guy who sucks really bad with technology to begin with.
Mm.
And I'm also painfully aware that I just turned 32
Uh-huh.
and I'm basically shaving my head at the sides every 2 weeks because I'm going gray. And I just don't want to be the old guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
Okay.
So thank you for being the young, new student at Hey Arnold's school, showing me
Showing
me the way, just showing me the, and
like
never again, Jesse, take the wheel. I will never ever doubt your steering
I
abilities.
think that's a song by Carrie Underwood. Is Jesse?
It's my favorite one.
I think it is. Yeah.
That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
In fact,
Friday. Go ahead.
we should make a T-shirt that says "Jesse, take the wheel." and
Jesse,
just have
take
this
the wheel.
face. You know that would do very well.
Yeah.
And
And on the back, it's me
me
going, I'm not sure.
Jesse. I don't know.
Despite all evidence pointing towards him being able to steer.
So Friday at 9:05, we'll say she'll
Done.
sing. We'll get her to
Done.
sing the national anthem on Zoom, and it'll feed through onto our live stream.
We're ready.
We haven't set it up that way.
Steve's not ready, but we're ready.
Oh, I'm ready. Adam, get ready for these hands. Get ready for them. The leading score is coming for you.
I won the fight I had on versus Dangle Navy.
I
on
I
Friday.
lost my fight. Nothing was going well for me until that third game. So that's the way it was.
Yeah, and you had a great third game.
I
Do
did
we
have a
have-
good third game.
Do we have time for Adam's History Corner?
We have 8 minutes.
All right, can you do it in 8 minutes?
I'm sure I can.
All right.
What is
all
it?
right. I want to get this in. This is from Marianne.
Okay.
She DM'd me. She says, I have a quest for Adam's History Corner. Can Adam please cover Augustus and the Golden Age / why Augustus is arguably the greatest Roman emperor ever? Thanks so much.
Okay. So Augustus is seen as the greatest Roman emperor ever.
Do
For a
you
few
want a
reasons.
view of a Roman nose for this whole thing?
Steve is a Roman bust in a museum. He's at the Louvre. So, okay. The reason that Augustus is looked at like that is because Rome was a republic, but it was very, very dysfunctional and run by 3 families, 4 families, something like that. You had the Julii, the Scipii, and I forget what there was a couple other families, but
Those are you made those.
no, those are no. So Julius, like the Julian clan, Julius Caesar is one of them. When they tried to get things done in the city, other families would get in the way. So what was happening was you were seeing a somewhat democratic stagnation of things happening. They were, the armies were still extremely strong. The organization was strong. It was very rich. But Augustus is famous for saying, I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble. And that is because not only did he live an insanely long time, but he was a pretty brilliant guy when it came to political maneuvering. And he was the first emperor. So you're talking about a country that was at the time well on its way to being the only superpower in the world, the only major nation state in the world. And this guy had the authority to do whatever the hell he wanted. And he happened to be civic-minded. Augustus could have been the worst and could have been the end of whatever the Roman Empire was going to be. But he set them up for hundreds of years because he was, I forget the term, but he was one of those, a benevolent dictator, basically. And he was a dictator. And so the thing about Augustus that is fascinating, not only did he live a long time, brilliant administrator, but he was the first person in Roman history to that point that was empowered to do those good things. And the issue is when you find someone like that, you find benevolent dictators in, like, you could argue Napoleon was one, and he had the Napoleonic Code, which still governs so much of what we have in common law today. There's, the Napoleonic Code is interesting because it takes, people have taken pieces from it in all cultures around the world. Augustus had the wherewithal to say, I got to improve this empire. It wasn't for his own self-aggrandizement. The problem is when someone so august dies, it's rare that you find somebody that can replace them. And I think it was Claudius that replaced him, and was sort of like this old general guy, and he conquered England just because he needed to have he had to have something on his record that legitimized him as a proper Roman emperor. But he wasn't Augustus. And what happened to Rome after that was you had some good emperors. There was the 4 or 5 good emperors that they had, but they had a lot of guys who were raised in privilege and were shitty human beings. And when you have a shitty human being and you give them literally dictatorial powers, we know what happens. And for years and years and centuries, Rome had infighting. You're talking about certain points where generals were buying the position and then, and moving in with 2 different forces and going head to head. And so I think Augustus was one of the best benevolent dictators in history, but he was a dictator and was responsible for all the things that dictators are traditionally responsible for. But he did it with Rome in mind rather than himself, which is rare for a dictator. And that's what makes him, I think, a great dictator. There are specifics you can get into with Augustus. He changed law codes. He built a lot of things. He also recognized that Rome had conquered so much that if they got any bigger, they would just be outstretched. They wouldn't be able to support the empire beyond their borders. So he started to sort of stratify their borders. And then anyway, I'm sure if you were to talk to a scholar, they could give you a much better, clearer answer than that. But my understanding of Augustus is that. And that is why there are people that will argue it's good to have a dictator for, if it's the right guy for 20 years. But after that, it might be bad. Yeah, okay. Because if you have the right guy in power, he can do amazing things.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're stuck with him until there's a coup. And that's
what a democracy is supposed to be about, is you get to go, oh, wait.
This guy sucks. We screwed up. Right. Yeah, that's the thing. And the harder you make it in a democracy for the public to respond to who's in power, the harder you make that, the more apathetic they get, and the more chances you have of turning into a dictatorship like Rome did. And, you have ruling families and things like that. Very few people in Rome could actually vote, right? Very few people were actually citizens. So that's where this whole, that they were a democracy. Yeah, they were sort of an oligarchy. But yeah. Anyway, that's what you got.
We went to the
that
same
makes
school.
sense.
Like, I don't get
I love it.
We went to the same high
Is
school.
that interesting? Or does that even make sense? Do you care?
Yeah.
Yeah,
man.
Anyway.
The people demand it. We need to give it to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You know what I need to do is not do this off the top of my head. I should probably find some better answers and make it.
No, it's way better.
No, it's
way better this way.
It's a fascinating thing when you're doing it off the top of your head, because then it's like a skill,
You haven't.
If you just really look things up, then screw that. Read a textbook.
Yeah, anybody can do that, I guess.
You haven't really gotten dinged on one yet. Like, people will be like, well, what you should have also mentioned is blah, blah, blah. Like, no one's been like, that is the complete wrong person.
Well, I think
what
I
are you talking about?
The Persian one when we were talking about, because I got Marathon wrong. Marathon was the first time the Persians invaded, the Spartans holding them off. I forget what it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The Spartans holding them off was the second time that the Persians invaded. So I screwed that up. There was
but I would have been like,
screw-ups.
So Gerard Butler, he stabs a rhino with a spear, right? And then I would have got it wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, and thanks to everybody who reached out to me about Vimy Ridge, because there was a bunch of facts that I just didn't even know. Last episode, we talked about it, and it was like, there was, I guess the Canadians withstood 20 German counterattacks. Didn't know that.
Whoa.
And I believe I love that stuff, and I didn't know that.
Vimy Ridge on the money?
I think it is. It's on one
there
of the,
you
yeah, the memorial is, because the memorial there apparently is beautiful.
Vimy
I want to do
Ridge
that.
And Haley Wickenheiser replacing Viola
No, there's lots of money. Change it.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for listening. Like if you, how do you say it, Steve? Like if you really liked it, subscribe if you.
That is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell your friends that the fourth and likely final game of the Quarantine Cup will be Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern.
But who should be on the money?
Haley Wickenheiser, Viola Desmond, and anyone else you like.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness. Connection complete.